Welcome back. If it is joined us watching the news at 10, broadcasting live from Channels Television here in Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Nigerian army makes steady progress in the war against terror as some Boko Haram members surrender to them. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says government will now give priority to the energy sector. Also asks Nigerians to await the best ministerial list. President Muhammadu Buhari visits France tomorrow to hold talks on security and economic matters. And wildfire in Northern California as 5,000 firefighters battle to end the inferno. You can read up more on our top stories on our website, channelstv.com, and on youtube.com/channels, where we can watch our videos. But do log on to m.channelstv.com to view us live on your mobile device. You can also download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS, and Windows phones from their respective stores. We also urge you to please interact with the Channels Eyewitness feature in the Channels TV app on the Android, iOS, and Windows platforms. If you have pictures or videos that you'd like to share with us, please tap the application on your device, swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu, and follow the instructions. Speaking of which, here are some reports you sent in. We begin with this one from Daleko Markets in Mushin, Lagos State, showing a truck which our Eyewitness reporter says has been abandoned on that road for more than a week. He reports that the abandoned truck has been causing traffic on the road and is asking relevant authorities to remove it. Still in Lagos, but from Oshodi comes our next report of officials of the Kick Against Indiscipline enforcing compliance on pedestrians who prefer to cross the road rather than using the pedestrian bridge. Our reporter says he was impressed with the activities of Kai on that road and pleased that it should be extended to all other bridges. Our next photo is from 5th Avenue in Festac Town, Lagos State, showing people, our Eyewitness reporter says, are traveling in a bad boat. Our reporter is asking the enforcement of water worthiness of all vessels carrying humans. We end with this one, people registering their SIM cards. Our reporter who sent this in from Ikorodu says it is unfair for networks and network providers to have lost their data, resulting in this taxing exercise. Thank you for sending in those pictures, and please note that you too can join our League of Reporters from anywhere in the world. All you have to do is download the Channels TV app, the free apps, and from their stores, and you can begin to upload your stories. In other news now, on a sad note, however, the spokesperson for Kaduna State Task Force on Hajj, Honorable Saidu Adamu, today confirmed that 107 people killed in Friday's crane tragedy. Of all of them, one of them was a pilgrim from Kaduna State. Speaking from Mecca today, Honorable Adamu said that the dead pilgrim is from Kabao local government area of the state. Authorities from Saudi Arabia had earlier on Saturday confirmed that 107 people died in the tragedy in Makkah. Tragedy also struck today in Jos, the Plateau State capital, as a school building collapsed, killing 7 people. The incident, which occurred at about 6 in this evening, affected an Islamic school in Bukuru, Jos, South local government area. According to an Eyewitness reporter, although 7 bodies have been evacuated from the rubble, several people are said to still be trapped in the building. The zonal coordinator, North Central for the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Mr. Muhammad Abdusalam, explained that the incident occurred at the time pupils, most of them under 10 years old, were being taught the Quran in Sunday classes. About 30 people are said to be in the building. The Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arasa, says he will ensure that roadblocks never return to Nigeria's policing system, even after he's left office. He also says he will create a structure to replace it. Mr. Arasa told journalists in Benin City, the Edo State capital, that he's a child of Providence and he will put in his best as Chief Law Enforcement Officer. He agrees that he may not have been the best officer before being appointed, but he is resolved to leave office better than he met it. Some of the things he said he would like to accomplish include eradicating cultism, improving police welfare, and rejigging police public relations. 72 hours ago, the Nigerian Labour Congress hit the streets of major cities in the country in a protest, they say, is to support the federal government's war against corruption. The leadership of the Labour Congress and the workers themselves visited the government houses at the states, and then in Abuja, they were guests of the National Assembly. Their point to clear corruption is deadly and must be expunged from our system. They recommend life sentences, some even said death sentences, more appropriate as punishments for corrupt officials, while others think that both should be applied while depending on how much is involved. Another aspect that has been affected by corruption is the pension funds. Most cases, workers contribute where they are remitted by the employer. They're spent or embezzled either by the pension managers or the administrators. So how best can pension funds be managed? What should be the penalty for those who either misuse the funds or embezzle it? Let's take a look at this discussion now with this disturbing issue of pension funds management, an issue that has been on the front burner for years now. We've seen the pictures of pensioners who have been standing in line at pension offices, some of them fainting, a lot of them old already, waiting to collect their pension from governments. I'm being joined now on the news at 10 by a pension administrator who's also a human rights activist, Mr. Ebun Adegborua. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Now, you watch the Nigerian Labour Congress on the streets of Lagos, in Kaduna, in Rivers, in Abuja, all of them protesting against corruption. And they have some really stringent punishments, they say, that should be meted out on public officials. Why is it so difficult to stamp out corruption from the pension system?
I believe that the reforms of pensions in Nigeria, as anticipated under the Pensions Act 2004, is not being executed according to plan. If you notice from the pension administration system, mostly civil servants constitute the bulk of the target of this pension, and then military, in terms of the army, the police, and the navy, they constitute the bulk of it. So the challenge we have, therefore, is that when the portion of the government is supposed to be remitted, especially the state government and the organized private sector, the challenge is, after it's been accumulated for a long time, it then becomes a burden, because the target is to ensure that while a worker is still in service, a particular amount of money is reserved and contributed as its own equity into the worker's retirement account, so that it's like an investment. At the time that he retires, he goes into that investment in terms of management. But the challenge you have over the years is that only the federal government has been faithful in terms of this commitment. Most state governments, most private organizations, most employers are not able to meet up with these challenges.
Why is it so difficult?
Well, the difficulty is in the administration of the pension itself. Now, you discover that over the years, the administrator and the government collude together to defraud the pensioner, because you discover that the amount to be contributed by the employee has been contributed, the amount to be contributed by the employer is also being reserved, but it's not being remitted by the employer to the respective pension administrators. So it's like a corruption in the sense that you have already taken the money from the purse where the employee has reserved it, but you are not remitting it, either as state government, either as organized private sector, and it's a crime. And this is the reason why we're having this challenge in this country presently, is that we're not treating it with the same seriousness that it deserves. Because when you take the salary of somebody and the person retires and goes into suffering, he goes into queues every day, and there is no serious repercussion for the people who are holding the money. People take this money and invest it on behalf of the employees, and they are taking profit, they are taking interest. And then the people who have served the country, the people who have taken their pains to be able to serve their fatherland, are on the queue every day dying. And so we challenge you have therefore now is that I think the government, especially the federal government, should insist that the pension commission should be dismantled. You cannot have a single agency controlling close to 2 million people in terms of pension, because the system as anticipated is not being followed according to law now.
You're accusing the pension, you're accusing PENCOM, that's a pension commission, you're accusing them of corruption, of squandering pensioners' monies. That's what you're accusing them of.
Both the PENCOM and the administrators have their blame in this system. Most state governments are owing pensioners 11 months, 20 months, 25 months. And those of them that have remitted, like Lagos and those other 11 states that are remitted, the money is being invested wrongly. The money is being kept in wrong accounts by the administrators.
How can we make them pay this monies that they're holding? How can we make them give it up? I mean, even if you know these people are prosecuted, even though you punish them and all of that, that still doesn't benefit the pensioner because he doesn't get his money at the end of the day. So how do we help the pensioner get his money?
The first thing, of course, is that we have to have a data system. You cannot continue to ask pensioners to queue every year for verification, because that is the fraud there. They are holding the money, and they know those who ought to get this money. For instance, in Imo State, pensioners say we can't go through verification again. We did in 2011, we did in 2013. It is a scheme by the state governments, by the administrators, to deny the pensioners by using this so-called verification, every year data, every year queuing. So there should be a central data system whereby both the administrator, both the pensioners, we have this exercise so verifiable, so identifiable. By the time that you retire, you should have automatic access to that money, and you don't use verification as an excuse to embezzle the money belonging to pensioners. And I think so the result of this, therefore, is that every pension administrator must be made to go through that verification system every year, not through the employers and the employees rather, but by a system that can clear it away from this bureaucracy of PENCOM.
Mr. Edward Egburu, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10 and for giving us more insight on this particular topic. I've been speaking with human rights activist and a pension administrator himself, Mr. Edward Egburu. Now, the Department of Petroleum Resources, the DPR, has closed down 2 petrol stations for operating without licenses in Kogi State and sealed off 22 others for selling above the pump price and under dispensing of fuel to unsuspecting customers. The operations controller of the DPR in Kogi State, Mrs. Salvation Phillips, who undertook a tour of the 3 senatorial districts in the state to monitor compliance with government regulation, said the DPR is determined to ensure that the stipulated price is strictly adhered to.
The DPR team, in their routine surveillance towards ensuring strict compliance with the stipulated government pump price of 87 naira per litre. The team undertook a tour of 3 senatorial districts to monitor sales of petroleum products to customers. Some petrol stations visited in Lokoja, the state capital, show the correct price of 87 naira per litre, boldly written, but the correct quantity of petrol is not being dispensed to customers. The DPR team, not happy with this, sealed them off.
There's no exception. The prices that has been stipulated must be strictly adhered to. That's why we're out, to make sure that there is absolute compliance with stipulated prices, right quantities, right qualities.
From Lokoja to Okene and other districts visited, the story was the same. The Kogi State DPR boss says the agency is determined to ensure strict compliance by operators.
So long as there are infractions here and there, we'll continue. And of course, you know, there are ultimate sanctions. The ultimate sanctions involve embargo on lifting of products. It also involves withdrawal of our licenses. You know, every operator in the oil and gas is doing so with either the license or permits of the Department of Petroleum Resources. So we will continue to ensure that we enforce the regulations as stipulated in our mandate.
Ensuring consistency in these routine checks is one thing. Having the willpower to implement the stipulated penalties is another. Many say if this can be done, perhaps petroleum product consumers may begin to get full value for their money.
When the News at 10 returns, some Abuja residents protest what they call a lack of compensation from the Centenary authorities after losing their lands to the project. That's in a moment. Please join us again.